Hi, and welcome back to Extreme Trends. For every great superhero, there's an arch-nemesis, a supervillain so despicable that we just love to hate them. Usually from pretty normal backgrounds, these criminal masterminds are triggered at some point in their lives to join the dark side, whether it's for the ultimate destruction of the human race or just to line their pockets with cold hard cash. While we like our supervillains best kept between the pages of comic books or safely on our screens, there are real-life evil geniuses out there that have a strong resemblance to these fictional characters, and it's nothing short of terrifying. As we begin, quickly tap the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss any amazing content. Let's take a look at 10 real-life supervillains you won't believe exist. Number 10. The Riddler. German-born American criminal Adam Worth gave authorities the runaround for a considerable period in the 1800s. Dubbed the Napoleon of crime, his exploits made him famous in his day. Worth was enlisted into the army, but after an accident landed him in hospital, he discovered that he had been marked as killed in action. He exploited this, becoming a bounty jumper. That's someone who enlists in various regiments under fake names, takes the bounty, and then deserting, never to be found again. After a brief spell as a pickpocket in New York, he left the small time behind and began working for organized crime boss Mar Mandelbaum. Together, they expanded into bank and store robberies, perhaps the biggest of which being the Boston National Bank in Boston in 1869. They managed to steal everything inside by tunneling in from a neighboring store and then fled to Europe. It was in there that he truly became a criminal mastermind, making his way into high society where he formed his own criminal network, keeping his name a secret from his employees. Eventually, he was caught and imprisoned for 5 years, but continued to operate as a criminal after his release before his death in 1902. Number 9. Dr. Octopus. Gerald Blanchard was born in 1972 in Winnipeg, Canada. Canadian police described this evil genius as one of the most sophisticated criminal masterminds the nation had ever seen. Blanchard was able to pull off crimes that authorities deemed impossible over 3 continents. In the late 90s, he stole the Star of Empress Sissi, a diamond and pearl hair ornament worn by Elizabeth of Bavaria from the Skunderbrunn Palace in Vienna, Austria. Police believe Blanchard toured the palace under the guise of a tourist, managing to disable the alarm on the diamond and replace it with a replica bought from a gift shop. However, a parachute was found at the back of the building, and Blanchard claimed he had parachuted onto the roof in the dead of night to orchestrate the swap. According to him, it was a few days prior to the crime that he toured the palace so that he could record the patterns of security and the layout of the hallways. Amazingly, this crime wasn't solved until Blanchard was arrested on a separate charge of fraud and robbery. After his arrest, he took police to the Sissi Star, which he had hidden in his grandmother's basement. Takes the meaning of problem child to a whole new level, doesn't it? Number 8. Mr. Greed. It takes a particular type of criminal to make a fortune. Anyone can be a small-time crook. But if you want to hit the jackpot, you need charisma and charm. James McCormick racked up an impressive $50 million from sales of 7,000 false bomb detectors to countries including Iraq in 2013. This is clearly one salesman with the gift of the gab. Police said the ADE 651 devices were modeled on a novelty golf ball finder, and they're still in use at some checkpoints in these countries, meaning anyone carrying a bomb may be able to waltz straight through. McCormick, who was 57 at the time, was sentenced to 10 years in prison in 2013. The judge stated, "You are the driving force and sole director behind the fraud. The device was useless, the profit outrageous, and your capability as a fraudster has to be considered of the highest order." The device came with a Kilner jar, where a small amount of the substance the user wished to detect was placed inside, along with a sticker that McCormick claimed would absorb the vapor of the substance. Then, the sticker was placed on a credit card-sized card and placed into a card reader, which was then inserted into the device, which had no electronics. The antenna was then supposed to point in the direction of the supposed substance. If it sounds completely bogus, that's because it was. Number 7. Lex Luthor. The small town of Granby, Colorado would change dramatically thanks to our next perp, Marvin John Heemere. On June 4, 2004, Heemere decided to take action after a zoning disagreement put his nose out of joint. Rather than appeal like most people would, he decided to go full-on Lex Luthor and turn from businessman to master criminal. His weapon of choice? A Komatsu D355A bulldozer, which he added layers of steel and concrete onto, creating an indestructible tank. He drove the vehicle through the walls of his own business, the concrete plant, the town hall, the office of the local newspaper that had printed articles against him, the home of a late judge's wife, and a hardware store of a man he had a lawsuit against. The crazed rampage went on for hours before the bulldozer got stuck in the basement of a store. Heemere then took out a handgun and shot himself. Amazingly, he was the only fatality. Police tried explosives to open the bulldozer, but the armor was almost impenetrable. Eventually, they used a cutting torch. Estimated damages of Heemere's rampage came in at about $7 million. It just goes to show that small-town business can lead to big problems. Number 6. Joseph Konopka. Just like Indigo or Brainiac 8 from the DC comics, Joseph Konopka made his name by manipulating technology. Better known by his nickname Dr. Chaos, this evil villain is currently serving 13 years behind bars for 2 felony acts of conspiracy to commit acts of terror. The former computer systems administrator used his knowledge to recruit a bunch of teenage followers, creating the group The Realm of Chaos. During their active period, the group brought on 28 power failures and 20 other disruptions at different Wisconsin power plants. If there's one thing you don't want to mess with, it's giant plants like this. It's not safe for anyone. If that wasn't enough, they set their eyes on committing arson, disrupting TV and radio broadcasts, and even disabled an air traffic control system. That's some very dangerous hacking. Then 25 years old, Konopka was arrested at University of Illinois by Chicago police while trespassing in tunnels underneath the site. He was hiding small vials of sodium cyanide. He was sentenced to 13 years for the possession of the deadly substance, telling the judge he did it for no real reason. He's up for release in just 2 years. Number 5. Spellbinder. The villain Spellbinder comes up against Batman, entrancing him into a hypnotic state. While it's not a new notion in the comic verse, police in Moldova, the poorest country in Eastern Europe, were left baffled when Vladimir Kozak employed the same tactics to rob a bank. He hypnotized the staff and convinced them to hand over the cash. Kozak, who is now almost 60, managed to con banks out of tens of thousands of dollars when staff were powerless against him, the biggest haul at one time being $12,000. Authorities believe that the total amount he managed to get away with could be upward of $40,000. It's unclear whether police ever managed to catch up with him, or if this wanted criminal is still at large. Number 4. The Joker. The Joker is one of the most prolific supervillains in history. Batman's arch nemesis is a vital part of pop culture history. While the character has given us some brilliant movies and entertainment over the years, one fan took it a little too far. Christopher Clancy returned to his old school in 2010, then 17 years old. Dressed as the Joker, he filled 6 large jerry cans full of petrol and cut through a wire mesh gate to access the school. He then broke in, poured the gas over the corridor floor, and set fire to it before making his escape. When police arrived, they saw a man dressed in a purple suit with face paint and red lips. After his arrest, he told officers, "I'm glad I did it, because the people will realize they can't treat students as subhuman." His lack of remorse didn't bode well, and the judge ordered a full medical report on Clancy before sentencing could take place. When he was deemed accountable, he was given a 3-year suspended sentence and placed on a year's probation for the arson attack. Number 3. General Butt Naked. It might sound like something out of a movie, but this one is all 100% real. Otherwise known as Joshua Milton Blahy, General Butt Naked gained his notoriety as he allegedly led troops into battle entirely naked except for a gun and shoes. He believed that his nakedness would protect him from the bullets. If that wasn't enough to have him pegged as someone to watch out for, he also claims that he would regularly sacrifice a small child before going into battle to satisfy the devil. Blayi is a member of the Sarpo tribe in Liberia and spent his adolescence being trained as a tribal priest. According to him, this gave him magical powers which, among other things, made him invisible. After his questionable military career, he converted to Christianity and is now the president of the End Time Train Evangelical Ministries, Inc. It is a story you could not make up. Number 2. Roach. For every comic, there's a large amount of people who take the world of superheroes and villains a little too seriously. The ruthless organization against citizen heroes was founded by this spandex-clad mastermind, the Polantate. In an interview, he claimed that he took the organization public as a direct response to a band of would-be heroes, the World of Superhero Registry, a group of vigilantes that dress up and patrol the streets, led by 21-year-old Shadowwear. Roach has a dedicated website aimed at recruiting the best miscreants that the world has to offer, claiming hope runs rampant, evil must act. Thankfully for us, this is a case of a bunch of bored nerds donning wrestling masks and entertaining themselves, rather than posing any real threat. I guess that's what happens when you've completed all of your video games. Number 1. War Machine. Last but not least, let's take a look at the multifaceted Jonathan Paul Copenhaver, aka War Machine. Unlike the majority of entries on this list, Copenhaver inspires characters, not the other way around. A former professional mixed artist, he competed in the MMA welterweight division, often coming out on top. His credentials are so extensive that we couldn't possibly list them all here. But it's safe to say that Bane has nothing on this guy. Copenhaver didn't just reserve his skills for in the ring. His temper often led to violent outbursts, the most recent of which landed him a life sentence. In 2014, he assaulted his then-girlfriend Christy Mack and her associate Corey Thomas at Mack's LA home. When she was taken to hospital, it was discovered she had 18 broken bones, a broken nose, missing teeth, a fractured rib, and a ruptured liver. In 2017, he was put behind bars, never to offend again. Sometimes the justice system comes up trumps. Can you think of any other real-life supervillains? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and if you can't get enough of extreme trends, then check out these 2 videos on the screen now. With that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you in the next video. Society, where he formed his own criminal network, keeping his name a secret from his employees. Eventually, he was caught and imprisoned for 5 years, but continued to operate as a criminal after his release before his death in 1902. Number 9. Dr. Octopus. Gerald Blanchard was born in 1972 in Winnipeg, Canada. Canadian police described this evil genius as one of the most sophisticated criminal masters. Hi, and welcome back to Extreme Trends. For every great superhero, there's an arch nemesis, a supervillain so despicable that we just love to hate them. Usually from pretty normal backgrounds, these criminal masterminds are triggered at some point in their lives to join the dark side, whether it's for the ultimate destruction of the human race or just to line their pockets with cold hard cash. While we like our supervillains best kept between the pages of comic books or safely on our for a considerable period in the 1800s, dubbed the Napoleon of crime, his exploits made him famous in his day. Worth was enlisted into the army, but after an accident landed him in hospital, he discovered that he had been marked as killed in action. He exploited this, becoming a bounty jumper. That's someone who enlists in various regiments under fake names, takes the bounty, and then deserting, never to be found again. After a brief spell as a screens, there are real-life evil geniuses out there that have a strong resemblance to these fictional characters, and it's nothing short of terrifying. As we begin, quickly tap the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss any amazing content. Let's take a look at 10 real-life supervillains you won't believe exist. Number 10. The Riddler. German-born American criminal Adam Worth gave authorities the runaround. Pickpocket in New York, he left the small time behind and began working for organized crime boss Mar Mandelbaum. Together, they expanded into bank and store robberies, perhaps the biggest of which being the Boston National Bank in Boston in 1869. They managed to steal everything inside by tunneling in from a neighboring store and then fled to Europe. It was in there that he truly became a criminal mastermind, making his way into high